In today's world, your personal brand is your most valuable asset. In this video, I'm going to break down why having a personal brand is crucial to growing any business, and I'm going to give you actionable steps on how you can accomplish that. So I'm going to talk about the impact of personal brand when it comes to business growth, how you can build your own personal brand, how to leverage once you have the personal brand so it can grow your business, and overcoming all of the challenges and roadblocks that might appear when you try and build a personal brand. Not only is it obvious by now that we've seen people like Alex Hormozi launch brands into $100 millions by just leveraging their personal brand, and even people like Gary Vee growing VaynerMedia at over $100 million. So we know it's important to have a personal brand, but I'm going to speak from my lens of experience of Cast Magic, which is a software to help people develop their personal brand through content. And we currently serve over 70,000 users. So I get to see and have conversations with a lot of people that have done this, and they've shared their frameworks with me. And I've also done it myself through my podcast, DTC Pod. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can do this as well. But having a personal brand is important because it can build trust, authenticity, and it can create connection with the other person on the other side of the phone or the computer. And this is becoming more and more important as technology and software continues to become a commodity. People buy from people they know or people they trust. This is often why word of mouth and referral marketing are the most powerful form of marketing. And so today, if you're not developing your personal brand, you're not developing your business's brand. In my experience, I've grown my brand through my podcast, DTC Pod, which is a podcast for all things commerce creators and consumers. And I did this initially because I had no network from my previous company, Trend.io, which was a UGC marketplace for e-commerce brands. And so I decided to build my own network by creating my own podcast. And I got to bring all of the top brands into the podcast, built relationships with over 300 founders as I recorded over 300 episodes that are an hour long each. And that was able to place my name and the podcast as an authority in the e-commerce space, which then boosted my brand of Trend for it to become a market leader in the UGC space. So why does personal branding matter? It humanizes your business. People like doing business with people they know. And so if people can consume content about your business and get to understand a little bit behind the scenes, understand your values and why you do certain things and how you do them, it makes them relatable. It makes them think, oh, I dig this. Like, I really enjoy the way these people move and how they do business. I want to do business with them. And so they also trust you. And so they're much more likely to refer you to their friends as well. Like, hey, I know these people, I know how they move, they're trustworthy, they continue to make the software better, or they have this unique point of view, or I just really relate to the founder and this guy and I just want to support them. A personal brand can also differentiate your business like night and day from a saturated market. A lot of markets are getting imploded by different competitors that all do the same thing, but having a personal brand builds a community, which then essentially builds a raving fans army that can support your business and become the marketers of your business. So an example is Midday Squares is a company going after Nestle and just doing chocolate in a completely new way. Not only do they have an innovative square product, but also the founders are so out there and they make their community feel like they're part of the mission and that they're being listened to and heard. And so this is a completely new take on consumers that just see chocolate as like one thing that you just buy off the shelf and you don't even think about it. But no, not anymore. Now it is an investment. It is a conscious decision into who I'm supporting when I pick that chocolate, and I want to support Midday Squares. So I actually had a conversation with the founder, Jay Carls, on my podcast, DTC Pod, and I was completely blown away. It was this concept of turning the business into the influencer rather than attaching an influencer into the business. So the founders, the team, and the company itself is becoming a known figure in the chocolate space. So what is the impact of this on your business growth? Well, this can open a ton of doors for you. Number one is like partnerships, sales, and leads. My podcast, DTC Pod, put me in touch with Shopify and a lot of other partners like Wix, and we ended up establishing partnerships with some of these players. And so that's a one-to-many approach where it can open doors for partnerships that can continue to open doors for you and can continue to build your brand for you. In this case, I believe Midday Squares is now approaching 100 million in revenue. So brick by brick of building a community through your personal brand can heavily compound. And then when you look back, you're now the authority and the trusted figure in your space. No amount of money can buy that through ads. So just know that it is a long-term commitment. It is a long-term effort that feels really brutal initially, but then once you start seeing the rewards, you'll notice that one introduction, one lead will pay back the ROI of all of the time that you spent and all of the money and resources that you spent to create your and your business's content. Personal branding will also open the doors for collaboration. People will want to ride the wave of your audience's growth, and they're gonna reach out and ask to work with you and collaborate with you in one way or another. And again, one of those inbound leads that you're gonna get for a collaboration or a partnership is going to transform your business. So how do you build a personal brand? Number one is you need to understand your value proposition and understand what is your unique positioning in the market that you're trying to create content for. Oftentimes, this defines your content pillars and frameworks. And so an example for DTC Pod, we position ourselves in commerce, creators, and consumer, because we realized that there was an opportunity in the market where this triangle basically was coming together and closer. So all these three things influence one another to create the flywheel of what was happening in commerce overall. Creators were building brands and pushing the distribution of brands. Consumers are the ones who are spending to drive this economy. And then commerce was expanding as a category because it was no longer e-commerce. It was social commerce, e-commerce, and retail. And so that's how we position ourselves. And we had people from all of these different spectrums of the triangle as a guest on the podcast to drive value at the end of the day to the listeners of the pod. So you have to find out what is your unique positioning and where do you want to anchor yourself in the market that you're trying to create content for. You can't just go broad. You can't just give business advice unless you already have a huge audience or have a crazy track record. But you want to speak to the core of very few people that know that what you're providing is real value and differentiate it from anything that's out there that is too vague. The other thing is consistency across platforms when it comes to messaging. So nowadays there's a ton of different platforms. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's LinkedIn, there's X, there's newsletters, and there's blogs, and there's live streams and podcasts. And so, that was 9 off the top of my head. There's about 10 channels where people are distributing content to right now. You want your messaging to be consistent across all platforms. Why? Because you want to be able to migrate your audience from platform to platform. This is the biggest indication of a creator with a personal brand that actually pulls an audience. And the reason for that is because the moment you look at someone that has a big audience on one platform, but they have nothing on the other platform, oftentimes it means that this person isn't able to move audience from platform to platform, so they don't really have a true loyal following. Unless the person is just starting out that channel, that is completely understandable. But you want to create a personal brand where people follow you wherever you go, not you follow them wherever they are. And then lastly is create content that is worth sharing. Organic distribution when it comes to personal brand is the best form of growth. And the only way to get organic distribution is by having your audience share your content. The only way that people will share your content is if your content has density to it and is actually valuable. So understand the content in your category and make sure that your content is providing unique value to those people consuming it. Otherwise, they're not gonna share it with their friends. So you're gonna have to pay to grow your audience, and that isn't authentic, and that audience won't retain. So you're only fooling yourself at the end of the day. Create content that is worth sharing. A great example of this is, I would say it's Hormozi. Not only is the content really valuable, but he has takes that really contradict the status quo of Silicon Valley, and he has takes that are completely different but make a lot of sense, and then he shows you how he's done it and how he's implemented these things, and he backs it up with facts. So that content tends to be shared a lot. I share his content all the time. Same with content that comes out of Startup School or YC. Most of the time, it's actually really good practical advice because they simplify things that might be really complex, like running a startup or a business, into one simple initiative or thing that you can do to transform your business. And you can only do that through experience. So it cuts through the noise of all of this content that's out there just to go viral. And that being said, viral should never be the goal. Attracting 1,000 true fans should be the goal. All right, so how do you leverage your personal brand to grow your business? The best way is in its word. Use your personality, use yourself, use your face. Become the face of your business. Put your face out there in your ads, put your name in your emails and your signature, and put your face on your website and become the main promoter of your business, the main evangelist and the main ambassador. This is what will establish trust with other people. These are the things that corporations that you're competing after cannot do at scale. So oftentimes you won't see a big corporation putting their team members or the founder on every single marketing video because they're too big to do that. The CEO doesn't have the time and that's not their focus and they're already too big. But that's how you can be an incumbent in the space that you're trying to go after. It is with your personal brand and doing the things that don't scale and the things they cannot do. So make sure you leverage your face and your personality on every interaction possible with your customers. And then once you have that trust from your customers and your users, make sure to leverage that and turn it into a community. So a way for you to interact with those people as frequently as possible and continue solidifying that trust. So in our case at Cast Magic, we built a community on Slack. We have over 1,700 active users and members of Cast Magic who interact with us every single day. And we go there, we share company updates, things behind the scenes before they even get announced or go out in emails. We do weekly workshops where we do calls with them and show them what we're building in the product. And then we also give them insights into what is upcoming on the product roadmap. And we also make sure that they feel heard by us. So this is a big differentiator from any big company that is out there that will instead just hire a community manager and place them in the community to interact with all the users. And this person is measured by a KPI of community growth. That's not the case for us. We're the founders. We're there to interact with people and give value and make them feel heard. That's it. We're not looking for anything in exchange outside of that. And people can see that. And lastly, you want to overcome all of the challenges and blockers that will come up when building a personal brand, because initially it is not easy and it's very, very uncomfortable. So some of the things that you might experience are balancing consistency and authenticity, having imposter syndrome, because it's super weird to watch yourself on video first and you see all of these other people like Hormozi and these other ones who are amazing at personal branding, and you watch yourself and you're nowhere near that, but that's totally fine and totally normal. And then the most important one is staying consistent. Staying consistent with content takes a lot of mental work because you oftentimes feel like you have to shoot content in the middle of the day or write stuff down. And if you're in between calls or in between tasks and you have to do this, it's just gonna feel like work, but you have to make content go around what you do in your day-to-day in your life in order for it to not be work and it just be an integration of what you do. And a hack that I use for this is I make content about the things that I'm actually doing in that moment. So for that reason, making the content is not a mental effort that I have to like dig into what I'm gonna talk about or what I'm exactly gonna talk about. I don't have to prepare with much research because I just talk about the things that I'm living, my story, and the things I'm currently implementing into my business and experience that I have. And that is also something that's super important as content gets easier and easier to make. We have more people coming into the content world and creating content with AI specifically. So the only way that you're gonna stand out and will always win is by telling your personal story. Telling your personal story is something nobody else can copy, and it just makes it so much smoother and easy to talk about. It's authentic, it's real, and then also it comes from personal experience, so nobody can tell you that you're wrong and nobody can call you out. So that also ends up killing the imposter syndrome because there's nothing to worry about. Imposter syndrome when creating content only comes when you're creating content chasing views and not chasing true fans. So that's all I've got for this video. I hope you're getting a step closer to building your personal brand, or encourage your CEO or founder to build their own personal brand so your business can continue to grow and generate more leads. So if you're struggling with building a brand, Feel free to ask in the comments below any questions you might have. Reach out to me and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on how you can continue to level up as a founder.